This morning on BRN, an election 2024 no spin preview, the issues that matter most to your retirement plan. Joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Jen Flitton is the head of U.S. Government Affairs for Invesco. Jen, great to see you again. Thanks for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
And I know we're going to talk about the election and, specifically kind of what is affecting many Americans. We're going to talk about how it impacts retirement. But I want to kind of tee it up because since you last appeared on the network, the Federal Reserve has cut interest rates by 50 basis points. So that's a good sign. But consumers are still feeling the pinch when they go to the grocery store, get gasoline, et cetera. So we're all on fixed budgets. Some are retirees, some are not. So basic question to you, what's going to drive voters to the polls this year?
Yeah, I think you've really hit on the main issue, right? And whether that's in Pew polling, which we've seen from the beginning of the year to their most recent September polling, or Gallup's polling, and then into all these individual election polls that we are seeing come out every couple days, the economy and economic issues related to healthcare primarily are really driving American voters right now. And a lot of that has to do with that pinch of the pocketbook. And it's not just in those core items of groceries and gas, but it's in really every area of our lives: services, daycare. It's all coming on the consumer and therefore being reflected in the way that people are approaching the ballot box this year.
Yeah, really well said. And, these are obviously prescient and important issues. I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about Social Security since our network is the Broadcast Retirement Network. And from everything I've read, it says that the Social Security Trust Fund could run out by 2035. There's all different, it's around that period of time. But I guess my question is, where do the candidates, and I'm speaking specifically to the two major candidates running for president, stand when it comes up to shoring up the Social Security Trust?
Right. The entitlement spending, which is what you're getting at here, Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid, some ACA, this is the main driver of our national debt and our annual deficit right now. And we're seeing the trajectory in a real unsustainable way. And the expectation is that in 2034 or 2035, as the actuarials kind of come up with different numbers each year, that Social Security specifically is going to have a shortfall. And that would result in an immediate 20% decline in benefit to retirees. And I think we all know that is not politically palpable, right? But part of what's, I think, disappointing for those of us who are watching this very closely and really care about debts and deficit issues is that not their candidate is really addressing it in their campaign and in their agendas, and they're not prioritizing it in their discussions with voters. And that's partly or mostly to do with the fact that while acknowledging there's a problem, there's not a lot of political will to start offering the solutions because they tend to be hurtful or harmful to segments of the population that you want to appeal to vote for you, right? That reality sort of reflects itself in the campaigns and in this election season. But I will say that the conversations, especially on the Hill, especially in the Senate, where they have longer terms, 6-year terms for every senator, those conversations are starting. And I think we're going to see in the negotiation of tax reform next year, which whoever's president is going to have to deal with tax reform because of all the expiring provisions. I think we're going to start some of these conversations around the debt and the deficit spending and the trajectory that we're on that is just currently unsustainable.
Yeah, you can kick the can for only so long, and I get the palatability when it comes to the election. But yeah, something is eventually going to have to be done. It'll be interesting to see what happens when the new Congress is elected. Jen, I want to switch gears, and I apologize for peppering you, but we only get you for rarely because you're so busy. So I wanted to just hit you with a couple of different things before we end our interview. Let's talk about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. Those are known as the Trump tax cuts, and they're set to expire in 2025, how could the varying election results, whether we have one candidate become president, we have a different makeup of Congress and the U.S. Senate, how could that impact these tax policy negotiations, which I think, going to get your opinion on this, are going to be a big part of the congressional record next year?
Yeah, that's right. No matter who wins this election in the White House and whatever the makeup of Congress is next year, all of the oxygen will be spent on tax reform. Because as you noted, Jeff, this is a major bill. It will be negotiated between the House and the Senate. And of course, the White House will be pushing their priorities as well. And the current makeup of Congress will not be the future makeup of Congress. And so while they're organizing right now in the House and Senate, starting to get their priorities sort of situated, they're going to have a lot of new members next year. They're going to have a lot of education around this issue because a number of the provisions are expiring from the TCJA, which was passed in 2017. In 2025, we're in a very different economic situation than we were in 2017. And so there's going to have to be a lot of trade-offs, and tax reform is trade-off. But who is in the room negotiating this is really going to determine what we see in the final package. And if you have another situation where you're at a Republican trifecta, which is what we were at in 2017, you're going to have Republicans with the heavy leverage over that negotiation. If you have divided government and say Harris in the White House, you're going to have a much more intense negotiation where you're going to have to take in, all opinion in the room. Either way, it's going to be a tough negotiation because those margins in Congress are going to stay tight, no matter who's taking the majority in the House or the Senate. And so you're going to have to probably take up the vast majority of the year, if not the entire year, just really devoted to tax reform, which if you're interested in retirement policy and furthering some of the implementation of Secure 1.0, 2.0, and looking forward to 3.0, you're a little bit on the back burner from the committees of jurisdiction and finance and ways and means because their focus is going to be all on tax reform.
Yeah, and that becomes the priority. But I want to ask you, every time we talk about taxes, that tax deferred status of the 401k and similar defined contribution plans always comes up. Could that tax status be at risk at all? Thinking about, you talked about Secure 3.0, the goal of Secure 1 and 2 was coverage and more people in plans and saving. That's what we want. So, but it always comes up, Jen. So is that at risk?
Yeah, I don't think the traditional defined contribution 401k, 403b, 457, I don't think that's at risk. Will there be a move to incentivize and encourage more Rothification, as they like to call it, moving retirees or savers towards retirement more towards a Roth product? I do expect that to continue to be an issue in Congress, mostly because it's used as a pay for in order for them to, further for tax reform and cut taxes for individuals and corporations. And so that could be used as a way to pay for some of the tax reform that they're going to do next year. But also they're, mega Roths, backdoor Roths, there's going to be a lot of conversation around that. There was in 2017. I expect it to continue to be on the table as a pay for. And then to kind of get past our retirement, but still in the investment side, we're going to be talking about capital gains tax rates and how that fits into all of this.
Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see it all unfold and get more insight. Jen, we're going to have to leave part one here, but when we come back tomorrow, we're going to talk about how elections have consequences and what the impact could be on the financial sector. Good to see you, Jen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Great.
And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place. Details at our website. And we're back again tomorrow for part two of our interview. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving. And don't forget, roll with the changes.